do. And you know what's really alarming is the lack of outcry over human babies born alive and 5 to 6 months old, so that their hearts can be attained beating, and they have to be beating to be used in the research that's being done. The heart is stopped beating, it's not useful. You cannot use it. And so these babies are delivered alive and their hearts cut out without anesthesia. I wouldn't do that to a mouse.
What do you mean? When you say 5-month-old, you're talking about a fetus that is 5 months old.
Yes.
And they are live birthed.
Yes.
And they are surgically killed.
Their hearts are cut out, or they cut through their faces to get good brain tissue.
Okay, that is horrible.
It is.
Good day, friends. This is Stephen with my wife, Yana Ben-Nun, and we are delighted to get to speak to you guys again, of course, at a time where so many stressful things are going on and so much information is coming out, especially in this case about aborted fetal tissue being used in vaccines. Yana, that's your specialty, so please share this information with our friends.
Yes, we have done this yesterday, and we had few people doubting that this information is true. Now, I understand when people doubt, when they're trying to say, oh, it's a fake news, must be fake news and stuff like that, because it's simply unbelievable, Steve. It's so diabolical, like from a horror movie, right? So some people say, well, that must not be true. It's fake news. No, friends, this is not fake news. So what we have to do today is show you.
Let me say this before we go further with this too, Yana. The Kennedy family, from the beginning with President John F. Kennedy, has always been about exposing the evils of the cabal. They have really done a remarkable job at a tremendous cost to their families. We've seen the president, he was assassinated because of willing to stop the wars, stop funding all this, I call it a Nephilim agenda. We could call it the Rothschild agenda. Then his brother, Bobby Kennedy, he was assassinated when he was also getting ready to make his bid for president. And of course, even President Kennedy's, John F. Kennedy's son, he was killed in a very mysterious way there. And of course, because of things he was revealing. Now we have Bobby Kennedy Jr., another strong advocate for humanity, coming to the forefront, willing to take the risk, knowing that this is a danger to his life, as so many of his family members have already died, exposing the evils of the elites in the first place. So that in itself should give a heavy weight to the truth of this information.
Okay, well, Robert Kennedy interviewed Dr. Teresa Dasher, and Dr. Teresa Dasher has a very nice website. I'm going to show it to you. But first, I want to go ahead and establish the fact that this information is completely true. Dr. Dasher, these are her credentials. Okay, she wrote a open letter. Here we go. There is her biography. This is her website, www.soundchoice.org. Okay, I think that this is the phone number you can call to actually ask to speak with her. And I have contacted already her company and requested an interview. So we will see where that goes. I think that this is her email, Steve, tdasher@soundchoice.org.
Yes, it is.
Now let's talk about who she is, okay? Because she's giving us this information about 5-6 months old babies being born alive, ripped open for the beating hearts without anesthesia, harvested for the vaccine makers, and that includes corona vaccine that's coming up, COVID-19 vaccine, okay? Teresa Daisher, PhD, President, Sound Choice Pharmaceutical Institute, CEO and Managing Member, ADM Biotechnology. Dr. Daisher, an expert in the field of adult stem cell therapies and regenerative medicine. 18 years of experience in scientific and corporate leadership positions involving research, discovery, production, and
commercialization.
Okay, I can't say that. I'm sorry. Of human therapeutics. Dr. Daisher's penchant for groundbreaking scientific discovery and her distinguished scientific research has resulted in 23 patents issued in her name. Well, she published numerous scientific manuscripts. You can keep reading this, okay? She managed and mentored undergraduate honors students, postdoctoral fellows, scientific executives, over 20 research assistant scientists at all levels of responsibility. Dr. Daisher graduated with honors and distinction from Stanford University and obtained her PhD in molecular and cellular physiology from the Department of Molecular and Cellular Physiology, Stanford University. Well, I don't want to be reading to you that this woman here, this doctor, is a specialist, a scientist in area of genetics, biology, and now even area of vaccines. And this is a letter she wrote, Testimony on Conscience Rights Related to Biologic Drug Disclosure and Alternative Drugs. Well, let me read this. I would like to discuss fair labeling and informed consent for our medicines and to ask for your support for studies to examine the health consequences of having contaminating aborted fetal human DNA in our medicines and vaccines. It is a matter of conscience, whether for moral reasons or safety concerns, that a consumer should be informed of the source of contaminants in our medicines and of alternative medicines that may be available that would not be morally or philosophically objectionable to them. Some childhood vaccines that are mandated prior to entering kindergarten are only available in a U.S. produced using aborted fetal cells. These include MMR, mumps, measles, rubella, and chickenpox. Other mandated childhood vaccines are available from both animal or human sources, and yet parents and grandparents are not informed of this, so they can choose a vaccine compatible with their consciences. Okay, I would like for you to go ahead and read this letter on your own. She's even mentioning how fetal cells are in our food supplies. Okay, and then she continues to speak on vaccines. And then she's saying that the fact that these fetal cells are in vaccines are related to or linked to autism. Okay.
Wow. You know, Jana, one thing that's interesting to note, and we know this for a fact, Europeans do not get the contents or ingredients, we might say, that are in vaccines. They are not disclosed to Europeans. So when you go to the doctor for vaccines in Europe, there is no disclosure.
She's saying even in the United States, there is no disclosure. And over here, she's asking a question. How might the human DNA contaminated vaccine contribute to human disease? First, there is the potential for contaminating DNA to be mixed with our own genes by a process called homologous recombination. So she's using scientific term here. Homologous recombination is an established biologic phenomenon in which a segment of a cell's DNA is substituted by another segment of DNA that is similar. This can occur during cell division or DNA repair. Homologous recombination occurs naturally to create genetic diversity in our offspring and is also conveniently harnessed by scientists to introduce experimental DNA into cells or animals. We do not yet know if this occurs with the contaminating human DNA found in some of our vaccines, and if so, to what extent. Imagine the potential consequences of human DNA from a vaccine that is given to children at an average age of 15 months being incorporated into a child's developing brain. One does not need to be a rocket scientist to know that this potential has to be studied. Well, read all of her letter. It is absolutely fascinating to read this. Over here, it says aborted human DNA in our vaccines is not the end. It is only the beginning, as the creation of human-animal hybrids demonstrates. A new aborted fetal cell line has been developed called PER-C6, and licenses have been taken by over 50 partners, including the NIH and the Walter Reed Army Institute, to use this cell line for new vaccine and biologic production. The goal of the company that created the PER-C6 is to become the production cell line for all vaccines, therapeutic, antibodies, biologic drugs, and gene therapy. So here we go. They are using aborted fetal cells now. The plan is to use it in all vaccines, even in all drugs, and in gene therapy.
Well, you know what's interesting too, Yana, is here she is. She's got her doctorate degree. And so many people, including myself, when I heard that they used aborted fetal cells in food, it was very difficult for me to believe it. But because everything that we saw was considered conspiracy theories. But you have a licensed doctor saying it right here. Aborted fetal cells are also now used to discover new food additives and flavor enhancers. Okay? And we've heard about this already, but now you have someone that has molecular degree that's telling you that this is a fact, not a conspiracy theory.
And pardon my ignorance before, as I was ignorant of the fact that they are actually harvesting babies at 5-6 months old. Okay.
Well, Yana, long before we did that, Israel has been doing this many more years because Netanyahu approved under his administration abortions in Israel all the way up to the third trimester. In other words, you can be pregnant at the term of 9 months and they abort the child.
Well, that makes you wonder why they were passing these laws in the United States, similar to the laws that are in Israel, that women can abort babies at later term pregnancies.
And Israel's always been cutting edge technology on the vaccines, etc. So imagine who is the one first in line. And imagine all the patents that are out there. Look them up, see who's involved, and see who actually has a lot of these patents for these aborted baby fetal cells being used in vaccines.
I wanted to show people here at the minute marking 10:45. This is Robert Kennedy having an interview with Dr. Deisher, Teresa Deisher, that we just showed her letter, okay? So I want you to listen to this very carefully. Let's listen.
Oh, you were saying that if you inject an animal cell... Oh, well, look, before we get to that, let me finish the other question. Why did they switch from using exclusively animal cells to fetal cells?
I think it's complicated. The animal rights movement was very active at that time. And for instance, chicken pox could have been manufactured in a guinea pig cell line. But there's quite a bit of objection to using animals for research. And the animal activists were definitely driving them to go and use the bodies of the aborted babies. Economically, they thought that it would be cheaper. It's not, though, because the regulatory aspects are so much higher. And it turns out making the virus costs less than 10 cents. Vialing the virus is the cost. That's $10. So it didn't end up being more economical for them.
It's kind of weird to think that the animal rights activists have more clout with vaccine companies than do the anti-abortion activists.
They do. And you know what's really alarming is the lack of outcry over human babies born alive at 5 to 6 months old, so that their hearts can be attained beating, and they have to be beating to be used in the research that's being done. The heart is stopped beating, it's not useful. You cannot use it. And so these babies are delivered alive and their hearts cut out without anesthesia. I wouldn't do that to a mouse.
What do you mean? When you say 5 months old, you're talking about a fetus that is 5 months old.
Yes.
And they are live birthed.
Yes.
And they are surgically killed.
Their hearts are cut out.
That's murder.
Or they cut through their faces to get good brain tissue.
Okay, that is horrible.
It is. And we wouldn't do that to a mouse.
So, well, you know, I know we have deposed Stanley Plotkin, and
Okay. So
you see how, I mean, he is troubled by this.
absolutely.
Obviously troubled by it.
We were troubled, Steve, the
Yes.
entire day yesterday because, we knew about fetal cell lines in vaccines, but when we heard how is it actually done, how babies are live birthed at 5 to 6 months and then their hearts are cut out while they're still alive with anesthesia, I could not have a good day.
No.
I cried.
And-
I could not come to my senses and have a normal day. And imagine this is going to be in COVID-19. Look, this is from her website. She has over here.
But before you go there, let me just
Okay.
say one thing real quick, and
Go
I'm sorry
ahead.
to interrupt, but I just, people need to understand, preemie babies are born all the time. That's what you call a preemie baby. 6-7 months gestation, and they can keep the child alive and until the child is, develops fully and then can be, can live on its own with no problem. But when you're birthing a child and the child comes out, that child breathes in air for the first time before they cut this heart out of that child's beating heart. That's murder.
It's murder even at the point of much earlier, Steve.
Well, sure it is.
It's
I mean,
murder
I
any
think
which
any
way you look at
abortion
it,
is
but
murder.
this.
But that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, the mere fact
This is actually,
they put a mother in. Look at it like this here. You take a mother that has a baby on her own, but she's so distraught because she doesn't have a husband, she doesn't have a family that cares, and maybe she's too young or something. Next thing you know, you read about it on the news, the baby's found in a garbage can, and then they arrest the mother, put her in prison for the next 10 years for murder. All right? Because the baby dies or something like that. This is where these doctors belong. It's where all these people that are doing this research, that are doing these vaccines, they all belong in prison.
That's right.
For
But
murder.
now, listen, we are responsible to check on what is inside vaccines that we put inside of our bodies and our children's bodies.
Yes.
Now we know what's in there and how it's being done and harvested. So pastors who are saying it's okay to take a vaccine, okay, are guilty of murder. They're guilty of murder. What do you think, Steve?
Absolutely.
When this information is here for you, and you still say, oh, it's okay, and Jesus will help you, so you don't have negative effects or die from vaccine like that, this is a lie. This is a lie. Jesus will not help you. He will judge you if you allow them to inject you with this vaccine. And you know what? Some pastors are saying that Trump's vaccine will be safe vaccine because Trump will make sure it's safe. And this is another lie.
Yes, it is. Trump is not going to make sure your vaccine is safe.
He is working with Moderna.
Paul said the same thing to me. He said that, Stevie said, I know that Bill Gates is bad. I saw the report what the Italian parliament's doing. He said, but Trump is going to give us a safe vaccine and we don't have to worry about taking it. That's what we're talking about privately. I said, Paul, are you serious? I said, this is insane to say that. Well, he tells me that Trump had appointed this man to do the warp speed program that he did. So I went and looked up who the guy was, only to discover the man was from the Moderna Corporation. And Moderna is in partnership with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in the top secret aspects of their vaccine. And of course, when you're talking about top secret, this is what you probably get in the top secret line: aborted fetal cells.
This is from Dr. Deisher's website. COVID-19, the vaccine, development product name is mRNA-1273. Company is Moderna.
Thank you, Trump.
There will be fetal cell lines HEC-293 for COVID vaccine, insect-based cell line as well.
Well, all right, Donald Trump.
So this is the information on all of the vaccines. When you want to look where the fetal cell lines are, these are the names.
Murderers.
Okay. But then pastors, you telling people it's okay to take a vaccine that killed 5 to 6 months old baby and harvested a heart alive while the baby was still alive? Without anesthesia, even with anesthesia. I know this is just, Stephen, I have no words for this.
You know what? That's all. You may not be guilty of the murder of the child, but I guarantee you one thing: you have now been openly complicit to cannibalism.
Well,
and saying that people should do this. This is insane.
No, but I want to tell people, Jesus will not help you against adverse effects of this vaccine if you take it.
Let me tell you why.
It's the same thing as saying that you can drink a lot of alcohol and Jesus will save you from cirrhosis of the liver.
Okay, let me make a statement on this right here. If it was a little bitty kid that was taking the vaccine because his parents didn't know any better, I wouldn't, in a case like that, where there's ignorance on the part of the parents or something of that effect, and this poor child ends up with this vaccine as a result of the ignorance of parents not being educated to make an informed decision, then I would say that, sure, Jesus would probably intervene in cases like this here. But when we're looking at something that taking this vaccine, and I don't say it's the mark of the beast, but when they tell you you're not going to return to the economic system without taking this vaccine, without accepting the murder of these babies that we put in this vaccine to save your life, and you can't buy or sell, and you already know that the scripture talks about taking a mark that doesn't allow you to participate in the economy unless you take a mark. It's too eerily close, not to mention the worst case of this being the fact that it's the murder of babies being put into the vaccine. This is almost like in the days of Herod, where he went and killed all the children. The only difference is now not only did Herod kill all the children, but Herod's making you eat the kids as well.
Right. And, there is several branches of Christianity on what they believe: preterists, half preterists, historicists, futurists. And I'm not going into this debate at this time. Some people think Mark of the Beast already happened, and some even say it was Herod that was that beast. And so, there is a different ideas of fulfillment of Mark of the Beast. But this vaccine is supposed to not only be harvested from babies that were murdered in the most horrific way, but it's supposed to change your own DNA. Plus, what else will this vaccine have is hydrogel, Steve, that will penetrate your brain. And then it's supposedly prepare your body to be later connected to AI. And people who gave reports about this said that a lot of people will die. This is all experimental. A lot of people will die. the fittest will survive, and then they will be changed into cyborgs. So here we have transhumanist agenda, and they will be bringing this vaccine every year. And remember, the Rockefeller and the Rothschild documents are talking about genocide. They're talking about there is too many people on this planet, and we have got to get rid of billions of people. Okay, Georgia Guidestones, only 500 million people they want on this earth.
Let me throw some thoughts in there, because regardless of what the different doctrinal views out there as far as mark of the beast, the mark of the beast, period, is exactly what the word says. It is a mark of the beast, of a beast. And of course, as we know in Genesis, the serpent was the most subtle of all the beasts. We know that Jesus said that the Pharisees were of their father, the devil, and they were of a Nephilim bloodline. That doesn't mean that all Pharisees were, because Paul was a Pharisee and he was not. Nicodemus believed in Jesus and he was not. The thing is, what I'm saying here is, even when it comes to the vaccine itself, it is developed by a Nephilim bloodline, which are the Rockefellers, Rothschilds. Not only that, we have intel that is coming directly out of Israel that you don't even hear yet in the debate, and that is that they have taken Nephilim DNA and they've also included this in some sort of research of some sort of vaccine as well. Now, whether or not it's for the COVID-19 vaccine, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. If they're putting Nephilim DNA into some sort of vaccine, which, by the way, is supposed to help connect you to AI technology, that's what this particular this injection is for, right? Mm-hmm. That, in that case there, that is a mark of a beast, because you have now put the beast DNA within your own DNA. Now, whether or not COVID-19 has that, I don't know. But nonetheless, I do know that a Nephilim genetic bloodline called Rothschild Rockefellers have developed it, and I don't want any mark they have to give.
Exactly. So we can debate this out later again and go more into theological points of all of this. But the point is that there are pastors out there, and they're telling people in the flock, it will be absolutely okay for you to take this COVID-19 vaccine without thinking. It's okay. Jesus will protect you. Now, if you cannot return to economy, if you cannot go to grocery store, you cannot travel, you will have to make very serious decisions and maybe find like-minded friends. Okay, because people who won't take this vaccine will be considered outcasts and dangers to society. Now we are going to take up the cross of Christ, because he was considered outcast as well. So we will have to be self-sufficient. And I recommend that those people who don't want to take this vaccine and have anything to do with this murder of babies and hydrogel and Nephilim DNA and all of these things that will be inside vaccines, that you start making your preparations with your like-minded friends, because we will have to be self-sufficient when it comes to food, water, shelter, you name it. We won't be able to participate, because I'm seeing where it's heading. They're already saying, oh, the COVID is rising, which is all a hoax and a lie, because this COVID, this pre-COVID and post-COVID world right now, this is when the beast has taken over the planet. In February of 2020, we have received a letter that I want to at one point read to you. This letter was directly from advisor to President Trump. It was a very small letter, very short, but right to the point, where he has informed us that AI has officially taken over this planet. And from this point on, this will be only sadness for the humans.
He said we be prepared to experience the sufferings of Job.
Sufferings of Job. Sadness.
And this AI that is
crying.
Now, as he said, that has taken over is also the Americans are now considered the enemy.
Yes, it says that there is nobody, that letter says there is not one person in White House that stands for humanity anymore. They're all only caring for their own survival. Okay, so no, Trump does not care for you. Trump is assuring his own future because AI has taken over. And I am going to talk to you, as I promised, on our Patreon channel, that we will have this teleconference, and I will do for you a summary of Joel Bach's book on Holy Serpent, Metatron, and Josephic Messiah, that Jewish Kabbalists are believing, and they have believed and released this information already years ago, that AI is considered their holy serpent, their Messiah. So AI has taken over. AI technology is taking over every aspect of our life. They're going to change everything. And I'm talking about the way you shop, what you eat, what you drink, how children are schooled, how you sell your house, how you buy your house. Every aspect of your life is going to change because AI is taking over. And they are fully ready to move on to their last decade until 2030, when they, in their own documents, they have said that in the year of 2030, no human baby will be born anymore. And this is their vaccines. They're going to do it through the vaccines, because what these vaccines will do is not only depopulate a lot of people from the planet on the top of their weather weapons and silent weapons like Wi-Fi and 5G and 6G and all of that, okay, but they're going to sterilize humanity, meaning that boys and girls won't be able to have children anymore. But anyway, we are going to go deeply into it. I just wanted to prove to you that no, this was not a fake report. It's a very serious matter. And you are to talk to your pastors that you follow. And if they are not open to this, you need to unfollow these people.
Yeah.
You need to make your own decisions.
Strongly, especially if you have a pastor that you love and and you feel like there's any hope whatsoever. Not just pray for them, but really seriously get them on the phone, talk to them, let them know.
Write them
because
letters.
I can tell you now, some of the ones that we know, they're not, they've talked to us, but they're just too sold out. But maybe you could talk to them. Maybe there's something that they might accept from you. So I just really encourage you to do all you can. Because time is very short.
I would like to play this one more time, what she said, so you can see. And you already heard her credentials.
Activists were definitely driving them to go and use the bodies of the aborted babies. Economically, they thought that it would be cheaper. It's not, though, because the regulatory aspects are so much higher. And it turns out making the virus it costs less than 10 cents. Vialing the virus is the cost. That's $10. So it did end up being more economical for them.
It's kind of weird to think that the animal rights activists have more clout with the vaccine companies than do the anti-abortion activists.
They do. And you know what's really alarming is the lack of outcry over human babies born alive at 5 to 6 months old, so that their hearts can be attained beating, and they have to be beating to be used in the research that's being done. The heart has stopped beating; it's not useful. You cannot use it. And so these babies are delivered alive, and their hearts cut out without anesthesia. I wouldn't do that to a mouse.
What do you mean? When you say 5 months old, you're talking about a fetus that is 5 months old.
Yes.
And they are live birthed.
Yes.
And they are surgically killed.
Their hearts are cut out. or they cut through their faces to get good brain tissue.
Okay, that is horrible.
Okay. So I hope that this touches you deeply and that you will think about this, as most of you do, I can see by comments. However, there were still few people that came to us with letters and said that this was a fake report. And I just want to assure you, no, it's not fake report. As horrific as it is, this is the true report.
Yes, it is. And don't forget, you can visit our website, israelinewslive.org. All of our later videos always show up here on our website here as well. If you want to support the ministry, Ben-Nun Institute, our mailing address, and of course, you can click here right there online and you can support the broadcast that way. Your contributions are greatly appreciated. I mean, we can't thank you enough. And we're behind once again on trying to reach out to people, but we want to thank you and let you know we do receive your support, and we thank you very much for that.
Okay, so you'll have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow with Dr. June Knight. Gonna have a show with her.
Good evening.